done. Thank you for coming.
Stay tuned for more great episodes.
That's right.
True Talk with Gio. Welcome back to Designing with Intent episode, who knows what episode number it is, but I'm Charles, he's Steve, Gio, and Alex. Today, we're talking DNA Coil. Steve has an entire script planned out, so Steve, I want to start with you.
Yes, thank you, Charles.
You have a bit of information, a bit of news headlines for us that just came in.
Yeah.
Regarding Stu Williams and the DNA Coil. What happened?
Right. Yeah, and a lot of people know Stu and Chris, they do a lot of video ball reviews, right?
Yes, they do.
And they know the balls, they know the equipment very intently, right? They know it they dig into the ball motion probably deeper than anybody. And
techie guys,
it's the first opportunity that the guys on tour have had to throw the DNA Coil was just this week. And happy to report, Stu Williams, big fan, so much so that he had a perfect 300 game out there with it right out of the gate. And this was just the very first week that they were able to use them. And the one exciting thing about that, too, is that a lot of our, I won't say just PBA staffers, because now a lot of bowlers around the world have a very high rev rate. It used to be the guys that had 400, 450 RPMs plus were strictly limited to the PBA Tour. But now it's you'll see that commonplace now, right?
Especially two-handers.
Now it's 500 or 550.
Now it's 500. We're pushing the bar up even higher, right? And a lot of times the strong ASIMs, especially ones with cores this dynamic, don't get used by the players with 400 plus RPMs because their rev rate's so high and their roll so strong. But he not only did it roll good, it rolled fantastic. Yeah. So much so that he shot 300 with it. So I was pretty stoked to see that.
Totally.
I like that about Stu, because he'll tell you when he likes a ball and when he doesn't like a ball. So I think it's safe to assume Stu likes that one. Okay, so Gio, same color sheet for the DNA Coil to the DNA, the first DNA. Let me start over, okay. Well, that's a stupid way of putting it. Okay, Gio, what's the difference between the DNA and the DNA Coil?
It's the Pearl version.
Good answer. What else?
Man, that is some fantastic video right there. That's going to all right.
While you are doing I'm just thinking what to say, because honestly, He has mica.
We got pearls of all different levels. We have cleaner pearls like we have in the Attention Star and Vibo and balls like that of that nature. But then we go another direction with the pearls, and that's ones that pick up more in the mid lane. So ones that are more nano based. This DNA Coil kind of fits that bill, right?
Totally, yeah. It's the type of bowling ball that is better for the higher volume patterns. It's the strongest asymmetric pearl ball that we have in the line of storm at the moment. And it's an amazing one. It's nano-based, as you said. It's very good. If we compare it with the Vivo or Virtual Energy Blackout, it's going to be stronger. It's going to be a bit better in the mid lane and better for volumes, for higher volumes for sure.
So since it's more of a mid lane oriented cover, does the weight block, Alex, go along those lines too? Because we talked about a while ago with the Absolute, a torquey weight block with a torquey cover and the R2SD. So the marriage between those two kind of worked out pretty well for a lot of people. So this one kind of goes the other way with the more mid-lane focus.
Exactly, and I think this is where you really get into building the product line differently. You know, getting something. If you look at that Super Coil weight block, you have very even top to bottom. There's basically a big solid mass basically straight down the x-axis there, but then you have that really wide y-axis, and there's actually two cutaways there. And those cutaways are what really give this ball a lot more intermediate differential, which again, if you put that PSA in kind of an unstable spot, that really makes that ball want to dig and change direction, especially in the middle part of the lane as it's kind of trying to right itself as it goes down the lane. But again, more mass towards the center, more heavy-centered, faster spinning, combine that with that stronger pearlized cover, which is something we haven't seen for quite a while in that Premier line. you get kind of a unique shape overall that we haven't seen for a while.
No disc on that one. No
Single density piece. Yep, exactly. So again, not quite as much of that torque effect like we were talking with either Absolute or even Tension Star. Anything that gets that weight really imbalanced from one end to the other creates kind of that loping, and then when you combine that with either a cleaner cover or even a stronger cover, it still kind of naturally feels higher RG than maybe what even the ball says. You know, you could create two different balls that are 248, but depending on where you put kind of the mass in there and how it's distributed, it can feel a little bit further down the lane as a bowler if the mass is kind of more further away from the center and torquing a little bit more.
Okay, I see. Steve, with the since this one is a pearl, where does it stack up with a couple of the other pearls in the lines, between the Exotic Gem, maybe even the Vibo, or any of the others that I'm failing to remember? Asymmetric pearls.
Yeah. You know, as far as asymmetric pearls go, when we're looking at this one, we're looking, as the guys were just saying right here, we're looking at a little bit more of the mid lane. Now, the one thing I do say when you're looking at the difference in the cover stock, so like from the original DNA, a lot of times we start tournaments on lane conditions that not only have a heavier volume, but they also have a little bit fresher back end reaction, right? Cleaner back ends. And we see a naturally sharper motion off the back, and that's where you're going to start, say, with the original DNA. But there comes a time, and any time you're bowling, really anything that's more than 3 games, you're going to see a pretty noticeable transition. And when you see those lanes transition, it's then as we're trying to figure out, okay, now what ball do I switch from? I started with the DNA, or I started maybe with an Absolute Power with maybe a little surface or something like that. But then we're trying to figure out, okay, now as I'm moving my feet and the oil's moving around on the lane a little bit and the front parts and the mid lanes are breaking down, I got to make some kind of a move and some kind of a transition, you know, is going to happen. And I have to then go to a ball that's going to create a little bit more shape down lane. And when I see more shape down lane, or when I see a little bit less shape down lane with the ball that I started with, which is typically something with a little more surface and it's a solid, it's like, okay, well now I have to change balls because my moves with my angles and my feet are no longer going to be sufficient to carry. I can hit the pocket, but I'm going to get 9 all day long. So, and as far as how that fits in and knowing which ball to go to, again, for the DNA Coil, because of that really high asym, that big asymmetry in there, and that stronger exo pearl cover stock, that's going to be the one that's going to read the mid lane the soonest or the earliest. So I'm going to use that as my transition ball once the lanes break down, but on those heavier, longer patterns when I move inside, and I can't have my ball just skid through the mid lane, you know what I mean? Because it's just going to shoot through there. So if I'm looking for a little cleaner skid through that mid lane, I'm going to use like a Vibo. It's going to be a great option for me. If I want something to read a little bit sooner, I go to an Exotic Gem, or if I want to go even a little bit sooner, and really an Eternity is a good option as well too in that kind of mid lane, middle zone of that category of balls.
Good.
But then the DNA Coil is going to be if I really want something that I know is going to, maybe I'm amped up that day and I'm really firing it down the lane a little firmer.
Wow.
I want to make sure I get something that's going to read the mid lane. So.
Or for people with lower rev rate that they need the help from the bowling ball to slow down.
That's right. Exactly. So, and that's all part of matching up, knowing the bowler, and then knowing the lane condition, and then knowing your arsenal, right? If you can match up those 3 things, typically you're going to have some pretty good success.
Alex, are we intended to hit this weight block when we drill into it, or no?
Yeah, you definitely are more intended to hit this one, because generally we'll try and make more of those outward kind of cuts towards the weight block when we want our thumb to hit it. So we know our fingers are kind of going to be overall up in this area, which generally the fingers don't hit the weight block too much. They can a little bit depending on how deep you drill them. But your thumb, you know, you're limited to at least a 2 3/4 inch deep hole. A lot of us use some kind of interchangeable device, which is going to get you pretty deep in there as well. But what's nice is when you do hit weight that's closer to this y-axis here, it actually strengthens the ball. When you take more weight out of the top, you're making that ball a little, or that weight block a little bit more round, if you will, where if you cut some out of the side, you make it skinnier and taller. So you actually create more flare potential, and you can change those dynamics more. And I've kind of talked about that a few different times. We have kind of a basic concept when we start building the weight block. Do we want these holes to be amplifying it, or do we want to build dynamics into it to where no matter how they drill it, it kind of naturally is going to settle into a certain RG and differential value that we're targeting for the line.
Gio, how did you drill yours?
I drilled mine pin down, actually. And I tend to like the bowling balls to stay in line better because of my speed. I said it multiple times that I have a lower speed, so if I go pin down, I raise the RG of the bowling ball a little bit, stays in line a little bit, but still strong enough where I can shape it. I can throw on longer patterns or medium patterns with a lot of volume. Probably second or third game when there's some transition happening, that will be my go-to.
Nice. All right, guys, the hot topic has been AI. So is this AI or no?
No, it's not AI. We actually, when we're trying to determine what that right core and cover stock is to put together, we know what type of a ball motion or shape we have in our mind that we're seeing in testing, right? So when we came up with this ball and we basically used that Exo Pearl cover stock on it, we evaluated it, we threw it, threw it down the lane, saw where it fit, and it hit the spot that we wanted it to hit. It's already, without AI, is already the earliest rolling or earliest motion of that category of balls. So we didn't need to amplify that performance more than it already was without it. So we didn't feel like we needed it.
All right, this has been Designing with Intent. I've been your host, Charles. Steve, Gio, Alex, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
We'll be back next time with another great episode. So make sure you write in the comments what you want us to talk about. We'll talk about it. We don't no shame in our game. So bowl up a storm.
Yeah.
No shame in our game.
I feel like he was already prepared for that. He's like, last one was a little weak, so this one is going to overcompensate. The other one was like, yeah, if you want,
sure
you can
they
ball
know.
up a storm. And he's like, ball up a storm!